Alright, I got a fan going behind me, so it's kind of loud. What I'm working on, I'll back up. This is a Kawasaki STX12-F jet ski. And it developed a weird problem last fall. We put the skis in the water. We were going to test the big 1200 that's beside it. And this ski, being my wife's, she wanted to ride it too. And it wouldn't run. It ran lousy, huge misfire problems, a bunch of other stuff, and I had none of my gear up there. So I bagged it up. It would run enough for us to winterize it, and we did. Okay. Usual problem with these things, from everything I can see, internet research, is that display. That thing goes wonky, and then you have lots of problems. Here, that was dead. When I pulled and unbagged this thing for the winter, the display was dead. There was nothing going on when I used the ignition switch up here. Battery was fully charged, and then I started trying to find where the problem was. As you can see, it's been somewhat disassembled because you can't get to the wiring harness and look at other things. What I found out after a lot of trial and error is that if I took the connectors here while this was connected in the harness, the display, and I pulled this main connector that does the power for it, the two red wires are main power on the top here in red. Red and white comes from that ignition switch right there, which has red power fed to it, and black wire here, whoops, let's get it in the photo, that black wire right there is ground. I took some of these happy little test lights. Boy, are they handy. If you got these little things, you can make them up for hardly nothing. And I have the patch cords and stuff to put them around. But that and back probes allowed me to sit on the wires and see that we had power to ground on the red. We had power to ground. Once the key switch was turned on, we had power on that side as well, like we should have, but nothing was still running. When I wired a light bulb with power to the ground wire here, I didn't get any light. Okay, so I gotta chase the grounds. The grounds, by the way, if you have a manual, you can have the paperwork that I have here, which shows you the actual diagram. But they have these things on here. Up there in the top left corner, you'll see an object that says connector some number. And what that is a bridging connector to bring a bunch of ground wires together. They also have a bridging connector there beside the battery symbol that is for hot wires, and various other things are going on. If you look closely, I'm trying to zoom in real tight, you can see the multifunction display and the battery, ignition switch, and ground all going through that one connector there, which is the second down from the top of the multi-function display. So I started chasing this. That required taking the entire handlebars assembly off to get to the multifunction display. Then you start getting into the wiring, and it turns out that the location of the wiring for the, I'm going to try and take a picture down in here, hang on while I get in, but behind that steering, it mounts to the wall there, and then you look down further. All right, let's continue that idea, and let's see if we can do it a little smarter. Okay, the wiring is actually tucked in there behind the fuel tank. All right, you can't get at anything, and if you look at the paperwork, you'll see that there is a ground bridge connector, which is that guy right there, and inside of it, just to make it so you can see all the bits, you gotta find it, there's a little plug like this that has, let me see if I can get it in focus. You see how those wires are bridged across the pins? So I'm looking at the ground wires on this. If you look, you see the ground wires right along the back. You'll see an alternate set of wires that have to be bridged. Those three, the back 6, have to be bridged inside of there. No green crusties, And when I put a meter on it, I got nothing on 5 of the pins and megohm resistance on the last pin. That's interesting. Well, there's a second bridging connector. If you go back to the back of the ski and you dive down in the hole where the chickens live, this guy, by the way, this thing over here is for the air intake and has to sit right here where my hand is waving, so you can't get at these without going there. Right, it's another bridging connector. Same kind of look, same kind of deal. No green crusties. Real fight to get that one open. By the way, when the top pops out and lands somewhere inside the ski, it's lots of fun to find. I did find it. Last wire goes through this connector right here. Okay, tested it back to the bridging connector just fine. That connects to this wire right here, and there is our problem. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. Since it was touching the ground at the battery while still being corroded off, that was giving me megohms of resistance, and just the barest thing. I'll bet you last fall, that thing was giving me barely enough ground to get the coils to kind of fire every once in a while. Man, this has been 2 hours of all kinds of pain, tearing a ski apart into little bitty kibbles to find that stupid connector right there. So if you got one of these things and it's acting up and doing weird stuff, check this wire. It may very well be no good. Yay. All right. Hopefully after all this it'll be all fixed and working. But that's another 2-hour project to put the stupid thing back together. Thank you for watching.